Yes.
My grandkids, take their hands, somebody puts their phone down, they're just like trying to think about
So I guess we should start by saying good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
They're asking for more volume in the back.
More volume? How's that? It's okay? Okay, take two. Good morning. So slightly out of order, I'll take that as my prerogative, to just say there are no last good mornings. Somewhere down the road we will say good morning. So there is a sort of agenda to this morning, but it may careen here and there. I just asked Erik if he would like to be celebrated or roasted. The brave man, he said, either. So I'm looking here and thinking how long that I've known Erik, and my memory doesn't go back that far. I'm not sure that's a statement about you. It might be. When did you first come here?
I think either towards the end of 1994 or early 95.
I was thinking it was just before Bokaram Sheikh came for the big thing. One of the most difficult things to do at a place like KCC is to staff the place with teachers. Teachers who other people will find interesting and inspiring and so on. It's a risky thing to do, to ask someone to take a teaching role. And it really doesn't matter whether they have meditated for a day or an hour or a decade, it makes no difference. There's no certainty that it will bear fruit. Or let's say, it'll bear fruit, but it may not be sweet. That's not a roast. We're working on it. Erik, you've always been sweet. Everything that he has done from the beginning has been shockingly good. And I say that because when we asked Erik to consider taking a role as a teacher, I assumed that it would not all be sweet. It's kind of a professional assumption, you know. It's not a statement about somebody, it's a statement about the general truth of things. You never know how relationships turn out. And in the Dharma, when you teach the Dharma, and you teach the Dharma in a community, you don't know how the relationships will turn out. And in a community, if they don't go well, the downside is big. And Erik has, I think all of you who know him at all know that, he's played a role that has always gone well. And so we have good fortune, not only as the center, but Erik also has that knowledge and memory to carry that he made a contribution which has been valuable to many people's lives. And many people have told me that, so I'm not just repeating what I think would be nice to say. It's really the case that you have made a huge contribution. I'm sure bigger than you imagined. So I'm trying to think of some way to balance that with a good roast, but I'm having trouble bringing it up, and it's not polite to ask him to do it. So, as you know, Erik is serious. Lots of people are serious, but it's really unusual to be serious and at the same time really soft, compassionate, happy to laugh at even dumb jokes. Generally a pleasant visage and just unbearably likable. I didn't write any of this, so you can but most of you know Erik, and so I'm really just wanting to celebrate his presence this morning, and also to put out of place in the order of things that there really are no last good mornings. Erik left the center previously and came back after a long time. And I think the bungee cord that we're using this time is kind of high tech. So the likelihood that he's gone is very small. And I know that you appreciate that, because it's hard when you're connected to a community that becomes your felt spiritual home. Then you really feel when you're moving away and you're trying to think how good it will be somewhere else and how all the pieces that worked here will come together, but you have to not have had too much experience to think that that will happen exactly like what you left. And so there is a kind of downside, a kind of grief around leaving. But like before, we know you'll come back because we will know where you live. So we will know how to find you. So I think actually I've used more than my time, which I appreciate having had the opportunity. And I'm sure that we'll figure out ways to keep in touch and to share things into the future. So who follows me?
I do.
Linda. Perfect.
So I'm sitting in the streaming chair as a way of saying, don't forget, you can always stream us.
We might be able to stream you.
Just a little warning that we're thinking along those lines. As I think you've noticed, we have a little book that we've offered people the chance to write gratitude for you. And we tried to keep it a secret, but I'm not sure we succeeded. And I've been asked to maybe wrap this a little bit into a summation. And what I find in the things that people have written to you, and also so much in how your teaching has impacted me. First of all, I'm in awe of your little notebook with your life's wisdom collected there, from which you can draw things. When you first began to teach, sometimes you would begin an answer to a question, and I would think, what does that have to do with the question? At first. And then you would go on with the answer, and I would realize that opens my understanding of this issue by horizons beyond what I would have anticipated an answer might offer. And I appreciate that so much. Your capacity to rest calmly in waiting for the right response has been so instructive to me, and several people have also written about that. I think most moving well, one thing is to have watched you, as has happened with all of our teachers, to have gained through years of practice that we've seen you struggle with, and we've seen you apply in your life, to come to a place through all that diligence and dedication to where you can be helpful to us in the ways that you can. It's quite beautiful to have experienced. You, for me, have a kind of calm and quiet humanity in the way that you teach that is so practical and so full of equanimity and so full of acceptance and so unpressured that it's meaning you can say something and I hear it and I feel no pressure that I somehow have to grovel myself in that direction. So for all of those things, I and we thank you and we love you. And I'm passing it to Tim.
This book I'm going to give to you, it's from all of us, and then we're going to ask you to give it back to us. That's the way it runs around here. That's the invisible bungee cord Lama Michael was talking about. Actually, there are other folks who want to write in it. Erik, it's Father's Day today, and I know that when you were asked to assume this position, it it cost you as a father. And I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Erik, we know that you know that the more important thing are not the outer accoutrements and symbols, but the inner wisdom and realizations of the thing we call our inner Buddha. But there are times when we forget. And in those times, you need this, which is about 1.5 pounds of representation of Buddha. And this is from us to you to take with you.
Unwrap. Please unwrap it.
It's a nice Buddha. Oh, it's a very nice Buddha.
And it's still.
Oh, yes.
It's filled with precious objects and sealed. Yeah.
Oh, it's good. We're shifting, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting the sign.
Was it when Dora put
Okay.
her glasses on?
Dora?
Yay.
She's just physically moving, but it's...
Oh, okay. Well, yes, so, I have a disclaimer. Many of you know I'm a professional public crier. And today is a perfect storm, so I'll probably cry. So, part of our recognition and acknowledgement and saying goodbye is for Sanje Bestic, who passed away this last week in New Zealand. And Bobby was really instrumental in KCC, and I want to read something that she wrote, and then I'm going to say some things about my personal relationship with her. So she said in 1979 she saw a poster in a health food store, and it said, a seminar on Tibetan art with Lama Drupa. And so on December 15th of that year, she sat in the shrine room of KCC. In her own words, she said, she knew she had come home. I found what I had been searching for my whole adult life. This feeling of being at home. I believe because I had been a Buddhist in many previous lives. I met her in 1991. I had a gift certificate to take yoga with a well-known teacher here in Portland, but somehow I'd heard about her, and she had such an ease about her. She made you feel like anything you did was fine, and you were just happy to be there. And being there in those days was 3 carpet remnants for a yoga mat. And that was, and neckties for a strap. So it's pretty primitive. And she and I became friends, and we discovered that we both practiced Buddhist meditation. And so at some point I said, well, you know, I think I'm going to come back and do some formal practice. I'm going to check out the Zendos in town. And she said, oh, why don't you come to where I practice? And I knew she practiced Tibetan Buddhism, and that was terrifying to me. It was so big, so colorful, so over the top. But on the 15th of May, I came here, and I took refuge that Friday night, and Bill and Dora and, you know, Bobby, Sanje were here, and anyway, that was it. I was here forever. She was just such a brave person. I mean, she wrote an autobiography that, you know, you can read, and she just talks about her life where, you know, she fought conventions where she grew up in a really conservative time, and did amazing things, and she just brought that with her. Like when Boka Rinpoche came, we taught yoga to anybody who wanted at the breaks, and I was really good at instruction, but she was really good at sequencing. So she would say, okay, and she'd sort of say, do this, and then I'd give all the instructions, and then do this. Anyway, it was just amazing to be her friend, and she started me on the path of being a yoga teacher. And then when she moved to New Zealand, I went to visit her in 2003, and I stayed with her for a month. And she had such good friends, you know, we traveled up the island, and we just stayed with all of her friends. Some of her favorite phrases were, good on ya, and no worries, mate. And she just embodied that, you know, with her just generosity and kindness. And then when I spoke with her a couple of the last times when she told me she was ill, she said that she was a little, well, I'm just going to say it, she was a little pissed off. She wasn't ready to die. But she was okay with it. And as we got closer, and the last time I spoke with her a few months ago, she just said that, you know, practicing the Dharma was a way of just taking a break from samsara. That was really good advice. And she died with her children there, really peacefully. There were people doing practice. She and I did a week-long POA practice at Salt Spring, and at the end, you know, we both felt the bumps on the top of our head, and I always thought we would be together. You know, sitting on some porch, I'd be blind, and we'd be doing Chenrezig. So, she is a wonderful person, and I know that our consciousness will cross paths, as many of you will with her as well. You know, she was a really big supporter of PCC. That's it.
Thank you, Linda. And I want to continue a little bit on Sanje. I'm passing around a picture. There's two pictures, and one is Sanje. She took nun's vows after she went to New Zealand. She took nun's vows. So that was an awesome deepening of her practice and very inspirational to me and others. And she's holding a dog. And let me tell you, animals were definitely big with her. And she was someone who, if the Karmapa was visiting, he kept birds and things, so she would take him to the pet shop and and had this famous picture of 16th Karmapa with this big parrot that she took. And yeah, enthusiasm, energy, those are my words. Big smile and the no worries, etc. But I want to say the picture, so there's a picture on the one side, and on the other side is a picture a few days before she died, and I feel she looks radiant, and she has all kinds of Dharma teachers and retreat centers and monasteries praying for her right now because of her, major Dharma connections, and so what a beautiful, and dying with her kids there, and what a beautiful death, and that she wrote her biography just a couple months ago, sent that out. What a great example for all of us. And this kind of goes towards the next topic. Sanje she was Bobby at the time, just coming off of her Grateful Dead, but I don't know, she never left that phase. She never left that phase, but let's say just coming in with the, the tie-dyed t-shirt and everything, and she was here when we arrived at the Dharma Center in 1980, so she came just like 10 months before Bill and me, and so she was part of the critical mass. She was part of the critical mass that helped us have the energy and wherewithal to buy this house. You could name, Peggy Ensign, Bill, Dora, Sanje Bestic, Jerry Gerhardt, and Alan Hefner. Alan Hefner died just a couple of months ago also. And so it's an interesting, I find this juxtaposition interesting. He was not like Sanje, who was not terribly old. So that kind of number is what we're talking about, of who was, those are people, of course there were a few other people involved, but what I observe over the years, and what was true then and seems true now and seems true with groups like ours, you need a core of stalwarts, people who are giving extraordinarily of their time and energy, they're kind of putting this first. And what was amazing about Sanje was she also had kids. I mean, the others of us were more like, I was 24 when we bought this house, and wasn't even working, and didn't have any money, but put in the energy. But she actually had kids and still managed to go to everything and do everything and help with everything, and so quite a bundle of energy. But so now we're coming to the part of the, we have the goodbye to Erik, the goodbye to Sanje, and our memories of Alan Hefner, who became Sadasat Singh, who I mentioned had a part of that early group. And so these goodbyes now leads us to reflecting on this house. So 36 years we were here. That's more than half my adult life, when I've just been intimate with this house. Like, I've painted the walls twice. I've, been there anyway. So it's a pretty big deal. I really liked what Erik's comments were very apropos. The one being the roses. So I'll mention roses have thorns, and my memories are vast of this house. We'd have to be here for a month for me to just touch the surface of what's going on, and I'm going to try to be very brief. But in there, it's a mixture, the poignancy of and then we come to the thing like mentioning forgiveness. That is a great part of saying goodbye. Like, forgive me for mistakes I made, many mistakes over those years that I can remember. And I, had painful, there were painful times, difficult times, challenges. And there were lots of roses. It has been awesome. So many, thousands of practice sessions in here. Thousands. And many different kinds and different groups and different people. We have touched thousands of people over that time. And yeah, people come and go, but people also come and stay. And if you counted the numbers, it's awesome. And then how many people do those people touch? And I counted up, there's at least nine major lineage masters who have been in this house and sat here, and many other teachers. And they've come multiple times. So much goodness, and it's just, I'm sort of soaking in all of that. But I want to, just a very short, interesting, I think it's interesting how we got the house. Why did we get the house? Because we had just gotten a resident Lama sent to us by Kala Rinpoche, and he needed a place to stay, right? The group had been going for about 4 years and had been sitting in, some rented place, and then somebody's house, and then one day in that house and another day in this house, and different things. And then those people were now going to be moving. And so there was that. The Dharma it's really helped to have the support of place. At the same time, we had just had a very successful, it was the second time the 16th Karmapa visited to our center, and he didn't visit this place, it was our temporary place. And but lots of people came. I mean, I don't know, 700 people came to the Black Crown ceremony. Our little people, organized like 700. It was in the Masonic Lodge down there, now the Art Museum. So we felt empowered, like we had that visit, and then we had this critical mass. Sanje, builder, this little tiny critical mass. So we decided we needed to get a place, and we ended up getting this place for $45,000. Prices were high at the time. It actually went down in value after we bought it for some years, and then now it's rather up. We had 3 people contributing, sums that had 3 zeros on the end, to total $5,000 for the down payment. And I have to say that one of them was from Peggy Jensen, who gave part of her settlement after being in a plane crash.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so that is pretty interesting.
In Portland.
In Portland, above Portland. So that, and as I mentioned, we were a group of long-haired people who were young and hardly worked, kind of scraped together this and that. But so this was a fixer-upper that we bought. And if you look at I brought a few pictures out there in the foyer, and that shows like kind of how it was dingy and ugly here. And we worked our butts off. It seemed like a year, but it was only a few months when I look back. It was like early February to, we moved in on Memorial Day. But we really worked our butts off. The most exciting time was when one volunteer, we were like stripping the woodwork, and he using steel wool, and he got it into an electric outlet. We somehow a flame right over there. You guys are sitting. And anyway. That was, yeah, it was quite an effort, and but it became beautiful inside. It was another 15 years. If you look at the old pictures, okay, this had fake brick siding on the outside, the ugliest in the world, and so did Phil's house, and there's the pictures there. But it was 15 years before we had the money and wherewithal to have somebody like take that off, restore the original siding, and we put on a new roof then too, and that was right before Beaucremche came in 1996. So, and I would say the other part of how did we get the house was we said, well, we'll put students in here to live with Lama Tinley, so we can learn that way. And so Bill and Dora, one little room, and then Peggy, and then Jerry Gerhardt, and we would each pay $100 per person. That was how we would basically make the house payments. And the whole budget of the center at that time was about $22,000 a year. So, and I noted, looking back, that year was also the year we filed our incorporation papers. So it was just right around the same time. We have a house, better get incorporated. And then we had a 5-year balloon payment. We had to, what we chose to do, we had to transfer the title to one of our members who then could get a loan, and then had transferred it back.
That was Alan Hefner.
That was Alan Hefner, the one Sadasat Singh Khalsa, who died just a couple months ago, and so he was the one who had a job. He was a pharmacist, but so that was pretty uptown for him. So, okay, so many things I could say, and I want to say one other thing later, but Bill, it's your turn.
Yes, we could tell many, many stories. One of the things that's left a big impression on me personally is just the opportunity that I've been given to actually make stuff, the stuff part of things. And I think I'm thinking there's some kind of stuff that kids have where if you squeeze it, it holds shape for a while, but then you relax and it goes like that. So if you have people and you have practice and you have a place and you have that energy and you put it together, you can squeeze it like this. The energy will come together and you'll have a place of practice. And that the activity of actually physically doing that has left a very deep imprint on me. There's something about the substance of that where you really lean your energy in all of your being, your body, speech, mind, your creativity, your exhaustion, and all the rest. You lean in. Sometimes it leans back, and this is not the worst of what's happened over at Skidmore, but that has given me some sense of sort of substance in practice. It's not intellectual, it's not psychological, it's not ethereal at all. There's a kind of a grounding piece to it. And so I'm very, very grateful to have had the opportunity here in this house at SCOL and now again at Skidmore to engage this aspect of practice. Thank you.
I want to say one thing. We had our first annual Sangha meeting, and there was 25 of us. Michael was here, and we sat in this dining room. That was how we've grown.
Yeah. Well, Linda going to go?
I want to offer gratitude to all of you who took those risks, who stepped up like that. Brooke and I were talking the other day, this Brooke right there, so this is Brooke's phrase that I'm about to quote. She said that because you were both brave enough and dedicated to put everything on the line like that, this many years down the road, this community has the both financial and spiritual equity. So, you know, the financial equity because of having this property, and the spiritual equity because of everything that's happened here, that we can make this leap to Skidmore without actually stressing us all that much. You know, we're meeting the costs, we're rising to the practice needs, and the community has stepped forward and volunteering like mad, so we're actually making it happen too. So, so much gratitude for those of you who took those leaps 36 years ago.
So as I went back, I realized, you know, the early days, it was Lama Drupa who was here. So we had 10 years, roughly, with him as the resident Lama. And so you can see him in those, some of those pictures. And so I'm also thinking about all his activity, which is awesome. And then thinking about then how wonderful it was when Lama Michael came and just it ignited a huge growth in KCC, and just built on the foundation that we had. And so we've had these different eras, but you know, and so it's this continual evolution, but it keeps going, and so now we're moving towards a new era. And my experience at the moment is having the sense that, you know, I think we had the forgiveness, the gratitude, the love, but also from the Dharma perspective, we have the timeless nature that has no place. So I'm trying to hold that sense. We're not stuck to this place or any other place, and we have that profound capacity at our fingertips wherever we go. And I have the sense that we can, you know, if I just think of all the practice, all the teachings, all the efforts, the offerings, the goodness, it's like a big, like big light, ball of light for me that kind of, I can see it has no boundary, and it's like fuel that is just going out, and this is an opportunity to just release that and give it to the world. And it's not small, it's huge, and we can make it bigger by offering that and dedicating that. Can you help us dedicate Michael?
You need help. Okay.
And then if you have words to say before we do the final prayers.
So the dedication first for the accumulation of merit and positive conditions from what we have done and are doing. Oh, by this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state. It's okay, a bell is nice anytime.
That's true. Good point.
So we're going to recite the aspirations for Mahamudra. And there's a couple of very quick things. Mahamudra is really the name for the ultimate nature of things. And the practice and realization of Mahamudra is the realization of the nature of all things, in particular, most importantly, the mind itself, which is the source of all of our experience. So it's a big deal to recognize the nature of your experience, which means pretty much you cannot be a victim of that experience. And when we recite this aspiration, which is quite a lofty aspiration, to say the least, there are always things about it, maybe for some of us, most things, that we do not comprehend. But many of us can say from experience, first time you read it, you understand some of the words in it. Now I see the word children is there, I get that. I see the word Buddha, so you kind of get the grammatical aspects of things, but the depth of the teaching still eludes us. But every time that you recite it, something new happens, and gradually, like putting bricks as a foundation and finally bricks as the building blocks for something much larger, it all comes together little by little. The realization of it is very gradual. The nice things about very gradual things, as well as the downside, is that you can go a long time and not notice what you have realized or what you have learned. And then occasionally it feels like suddenly all the pieces fall together. And in that moment it's helpful to note, just to make a kind of mental note, actually that's not what happens. What happens is that we very gradually connect the dots between all of the pieces, and occasionally, even for just a flash, we see all of those connected dots, and we have the experience of the totality. And you never know when that will happen. But we know one thing for sure. If you're looking for it, you will never see it. It happens when you're not looking, even when you've given up. So while we read it this morning, just to kind of hold that sense in the back of your mind that it's a very positive exercise to read and ponder this aspiration prayer, even without any previous experience, even without any deep understanding of what it is, but just to know that little by little, like learning to walk, first you crawl, then you crawl faster. Then you stand up, and because you can crawl faster, you fall down faster. And then you give up. And after some time of giving up, you try again. And little by little, you come to be able to walk. So with that kind of attitude, the realization of the Mahamudra is assured. Om Namo Guru, Gurus and Jadams, deities of the Manga, Buddhas of the 3 times and 10 directions, and your children, consider me with kindness. Grant your blessing that all my wishes be realized. Sprung from the snow mountain of the pure actions and intentions, mine and those of all sentient beings without limit, may the river of virtue undefiled by the 3 spheres flow into the ocean of the 4 bodies of Buddha, As long as I have not realized this, through all my lifetimes, birth after birth, may not even the words for defilement and suffering be heard, and may I enjoy the prosperity of oceans of happiness and virtue. Having obtained this excellent, free, and well-favored life, along with faith, energy, and intelligence, having attended a worthy master and received the pith of the sacred instructions, may I practice the sacred Dharma properly in all my lives without interruption. The study of scriptures frees one from the veil of ignorance. The contemplation of oral instructions overcomes the darkness of doubt. Light born of meditation illuminates the way things are. May the radiance of the three wisdoms increase. The significance of the ground is the two truths, free from the extremes of eternalism and nihilism. The excellent path, the two accumulations, free from the extremes of assumption and denial. The result obtained is the two benefits, free from the extremes of existence and peace. May I meet the Dharma which is free from error. The ground of refinement is mind itself, indivisible luminosity and emptiness. The refining, the great Vajra composure of Mahamudra. What is to be refined, the incidental stains of confusion. The result of refining, the unstained Dharmakaya, may I realize it. Confidence in outlook is cutting assumptions about the ground. The key to meditation is maintaining that without distraction. The supreme activity is to exercise the sense of meditation in everything. May I have confidence in outlook, meditation, and activity. All dharmas are projections of the mind. As for mind, there is no mind. Mind's nature is empty. Empty and immediate, mind appears as everything. Investigating it well, may I settle the basic points. Appearances which never existed in themselves have been confused as objects. Awareness itself, because of ignorance, has been confused as a self. Through the power of dualistic fixation, I wander in the realm of existence. May ignorance and confusion be completely resolved. It doesn't exist, even Buddhists do not see it. It doesn't not exist, it is the origin of samsara and nirvana. No contradiction, conjunction, the middle way. May I realize the pure being of mind, free of extremes. If one says it is this, nothing has been posited. If one says it is not this, nothing has been denied. Unconditioned pure being transcends intellect. May I gain conviction in the ultimate position. Not realizing it, one circles in the ocean of samsara. Realizing it, Buddha isn't anywhere else. It is everything, it isn't anything, none of this. Pure being, the basis of everything, may I see any misunderstanding here. Since appearance is mind and emptiness is mind, since realization is mind and delusion is mind, since arising is mind and cessation is mind, may all assumptions about mind be eliminated. Unpolluted by meditation with intellectual efforts, undisturbed by the winds of everyday affairs, not manipulating, knowing how to let what is true be itself. May I become skilled in this practice of mind and maintain it. The waves of subtle and coarse thoughts calm down in their own ground. Motionless, the river of mind abides naturally. Free from the contaminations of dullness and torpor, may I establish the still ocean of shamatha. When one looks again and again at the mind which cannot be looked at, and sees vividly for what it is, the meaning of not seeing. Doubts about the meaning of is and is not are resolved.
Without confusion may my own face know itself. Looking at objects, there is no object, one sees mind. Looking at mind, there is no mind, it is empty of nature. Looking at both of these, dualistic clinging subsides on its own. May I realize sheer clarity the way mind is. Free from mental constructions, it is called Mahamudra. Free from extremes, it is called Madhyamaka. Everything complete here, it is also called Mahapati. May I attain the confidence that in understanding one, all are realized. The great bliss of non-attachment is continuous. Sheer clarity without fixations is free of obscurations. Passing beyond intellect, non-thought is naturally present. May these experiences continually arise without effort. Attachment to good and fixation on experience subside on their own. Confusion and evil concepts are cleared away in the realm of ultimate nature. In the ordinary mind there is no rejection or acceptance, no separation or attainment. May I realize the truth of pure being, complete simplicity. While the nature of beings has always been full enlightenment, not realizing this, they wander in endless samsara. For the boundless suffering of sentient beings, may overwhelming compassion be born in my being. While such compassion is active and immediate, in the moment of compassion its essential emptiness is nakedly clear. This conjunction is the undeviating supreme path. Inseparable from it, may I meditate day and night. From the power of meditation come eyes and actual knowledge. Sentient beings are ripened and domains of enlightenment refined. Aspirations for the realization of all aspects of Buddhahood are fulfilled. May I complete these three: fulfillment, ripening, and refinement, and become Buddha. By the compassion of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, and the power of whatever pure virtue there may be, may my wishes and those of all beings be fulfilled as we ask in this way.
Yes,
One more.
another nice prayer.
So this one, we're going to sing the 8 aspirations of a great being. And this was written by Kala Rinpoche, so it seems very fitting. Not the song, but the part, but the words. And what we wanted to do, we wanted a reason to, a vehicle for throwing flower petals. So the plan is, at the end of each verse, of each 4 lines, throw some rose petals. And so I think there's a few bowls around, maybe pass them around a little bit, take a handful so that you have some to work with. And we will sing.
Dora,
Do you want to say something more?
I'm thinking maybe a little piece on
Good.
the
While they're handing.
the moving and the impermanence. So then this is more of a close. which
Yeah, this is the
nice.
close.
Dora, could I say something while the rose petals are going around?
Well, he has something to say too.
This is much less
Okay.
important than what he has to say, I'm sure.
Well, then
This is
say,
really on the relative plane, but I think it would be lovely if, while we close here in the house, we hold in our minds our prayers for the family that's coming here. That they have a harmonious and loving and beneficial life in this house, and it be as wonderful for them as it has been for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to also add to that I remember in San Francisco at the Dharma Center there when we moved, we made kind of a big deal out of the move that, and I'll tell you the way that we did this first. The way we did it first, in a sense, it's like what we're doing right now. In there, we took the shrine out of the center and moved it to the new place, and then did a few hours of meditation. But I think the important thing was, and is in this case, that the really precious thing about this house is what we did in it. And because of the integrity of the community and the closeness of people, we've been able to find another place which should be possible there to bring more benefit to more beings. And in this way, we can hold that aspiration and not settle into this place of that this is a loss of some kind. So I think that's in accordance with what Linda was saying, that someone else will live here. And I remember this in San Francisco too. Many of us thought, like, this is really bad. You know, like great beings have come here and now they'll just watch television in this room. And it seemed like we would never have that same thing that we'd had there for that time. But when we moved and we sat down with all of the things that we had and we did our very first meditation, it was clear that the whole thing had been moved. Not like vacated, but moved, that it was still there. And so I think it's very nice to close with this particular piece of music and the singing with it, so that we just remind ourselves that this is not something actually that you move. You move it by moving yourself and carrying on and continuing with what was there. And we're actually very fortunate to be able to have a larger place. And somebody else is very fortunate that we're having a larger place also. And you can imagine that the people who come in here may actually wonder what happened in here, which could become a seed for something else for them also. I can't lead this one, as some of you know. One and two.
Oh, by the power of the truth and goodness of the refuges supreme, by virtuous actions and a motivation pure, may I with all my heart exert myself to remove the various sufferings of beings filling space by the excellence of virtuous activities of this world and beyond. May I, according to the needs of each, satisfy the hopes and aspirations of all beings. Oh, may my body, flesh and blood, everything I'm made of, contribute in the most appropriate way to the welfare of all sentient beings. Oh, may the Savior's mother's all, dissolve in me, dissolve in me, and may they have my virtues and joys. However long this world may last, oh, may I ever have, even for a single moment's time, a benevolent thought towards another. May I always strive with energy for the welfare of these. Never my efforts to relax in times of sadness, exhaustion, and other obstacles. For those who hunger, those who thirst, for the needy